We live on YouTube. We live on Twitter. Let's get to it. A victory Monday for the New York Jets. See, I got my Jet hat on. Let's do it, y'all. Ty Butler. Hit me up on TikTok, on X, on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get the chat popping. Want to hear from y'all today. And the conversation is pretty simple. There are a lot of people today, a lot of Jet fans, not all of them, but a fair amount of fans who are in a place all too familiar. Instead of being able to celebrate a win, it's like, are y'all serious? You went from having the number one pick within striking distance to now there's just a 5% chance. So I'll pull it up because I actually had the number. But if the Jets had lost this game, and once again, Ty Butler, hit me up. I want to hear from y'all in the comment section. Make it a two-way conversation. Be cool to get your perspective on it, whether you're a Jet fan or not. And there's a giant parallel here that I want to get to as well. We'll talk about the Giants. But if the Jets had lost this game yesterday to the Falcons, they would have had a 22% chance to get the number one overall pick. And you look at next week, you get the Browns going up against the Titans. Somebody's got to win that game, right? Or, maybe it ends in a tie. But you will see, you will see some of the teams that are ahead of you on Tankathon with opportunities to corral some W's. So the Jets, with the loss yesterday, would have had a 22% chance at the number one overall pick, which obviously in a draft where you feel like, man, aren't too many quarterbacks I want, that is the more favorable outcome. And before we get to the comments, I'll tell you where I stand on that. And I've been pretty consistent. I was on the radio, ESPN New York. Here's the deal. Typically, I would be the guy coming on here saying we need some losses, because I don't truly believe that wins in a previous season carry over for bad teams. That's just not how it works. There's too much roster turnover, injuries happen. So there are so many different variables over the course of an off season, a training camp, a preseason, into the next season that affect wins and losses, to where I don't think that there's that carryover effect. So for me, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, here's the deal. Aaron Glenn's not going anywhere. If the Jets finish 2-15 for a head coach who's not going anywhere, it's a bad sign. I've got to see them win some games, just because given the schedule where you're playing the Falcons, who we saw yesterday are trash. They're on their backup quarterback with Kirk Cousins, which actually might be an upgrade from what they had with Penix. Their defense is solid. They can get to the pass. Their pass rush is awesome. They can get to the quarterback. Which, side note, by the way, James Pierce, who we saw yesterday pick up a sack for Atlanta. If you're a Rams fan, I know you are just distraught losing to the Panthers yesterday, but the Rams might be the best team in football. They could win the Super Bowl, and they own the Falcons pick, which means you could win the Super Bowl and then months later have a top 7, top 5 pick, which is insane. But anyway, back to the Jets. When you're playing the Falcons and you're playing the Saints, those are the two most winnable games. You've got the Dolphins coming up this week, the Jags, who are 8-4. You've got New England and Buffalo. When you're playing the Falcons and the Saints, if you come up empty in these games, then it tells me you've got bigger issues, man. It's a talent problem, it's a coaching problem, because even if you think the Jets aren't good enough to win, you watched that game yesterday against the Falcons. If they lose, you're like, bro, we can't be that bad. So for me, it's like I understand rooting for getting the best pick. You want Mendoza out of Indiana. I get all that. But I need validation from my head coach. I need validation from my general manager, who, by the way, has orchestrated some good moves. We saw Mitchell have a career game yesterday, 100 yards, a touchdown. Mechie had some drops, but he's got some promise. Briggs, Phillips, the trades that they made, like there are some positives. And if in a season where you're seeing growth from the head coach, from the personnel, you're playing games against bad teams, that ultimately is going to lead to some wins, whether you like it or not. So, yes, I want the best pick possible, but I went into that Atlanta game yesterday thinking I want to see some victories, just because it would provide much needed validation for a regime that is going to be here at least another season. And you could say, well, Ty, what's the difference between 2-15 and 4-13? Well, the difference is after you have a trade deadline where you part with two of your best players, and the head coach of the team is sending a message in a locker room, yo, we're not giving up on the season. We're still fighting. We're still competing. The way that that message resonates, or the way that we have confirmation that that message resonates, is to see them go out there and ball, which it was an ugly game yesterday, but defense comes up with a stop when it needed to. The offense marches down the field for a game-winning field goal. There's confirmation to me that Aaron Glenn's message is resonating with those guys in a lost season. Another year they finished under 500. Another year they're not going to make the playoffs. But the ability for him to galvanize that group and still have them playing hard and locked in and dialed in, we can say it's silly, right? Like, these are guys making so much money. Why should we be celebrating effort? But we see folks mail it in all the time. It's like, the hell do I care? I just want to get this bag. I want to finish the season healthy so that wherever I go next, I can be the best version of myself. The fact that they're out there still hustling matters to me. It sends the fans a message that this head coach, who I've destroyed, I've been highly critical of, is starting to figure things out. Game management was a big issue. Clock management, huge problem. The defense, where he's supposed to be the expert, that's his specialty, right? Coaching a defense, they were getting run roughshod over. And Bijan had I don't want to say a coming out party. He's been awesome, right? Bijan had himself a game yesterday, but the Jets were able to get enough stops late to finish out and get the victory. Kevin Zwicker, go Jets. With all the picks, the Jets can trade up for the quarterback they want. No need to tank to see who is staying for next year, and if Glenn knows ball. Here's the thing, and I mostly agree with you. And hit us up in the comments. I want to hear from y'all. The retort to this is, you want to be in a spot where you don't have to trade those picks. Like, you want those picks to be assets that convert into players, not assets that convert into another pick, to where you're now losing out on a first rounder or a second rounder. So in other words, why be in a position where I've got to now overpay to get a player I could have just drafted if I was just sitting right there? And another thing is, it's a dangerous game, because Carolina is probably going to end up number one, right? Carolina, we know, doesn't need a quarterback. But then at number two, you've got New Orleans. New Orleans is taking a quarterback. Number three, the Giants obviously don't need a quarterback. Number four is where it gets interesting. Vegas, I think they're drafting a quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if Pete Carroll was gone after 1 year. Like, you're not going to have how old is Pete Carroll? He's in his late 70s. Does he want to sit there through a rebuild? I don't think so. Pete Carroll right now is 74 years old. So into next year, he's going to be 75. I mean, like, does he want to sit there through a rebuild? Gino's been awful. So they're taking a quarterback. I guess depending on what happens with Shador the next 5 weeks, they could be in the market for a quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, that was a disaster. Shador, I guess, could play himself into being a starter. Which, look, I'm a Shador supporter. I want to see him excel. But look, the Browns are going to be in the market for a quarterback. At 6, you got Washington. They have Jaden, and then it's the New York Jets at 7. So New Orleans, Vegas, Cleveland, all in the market for a quarterback. It's going to be hard to trade up. We saw this a couple years ago with the Giants. The Giants sitting at 4 were behind 3 teams in Chicago, New England, and Washington, who all wanted quarterbacks. They couldn't get their quarterback. So that's the position the Jets are going to be in, and it might facilitate them. It might put them into a position where they have to facilitate a trade for a veteran. I don't want Kyler Murray. The broadcast yesterday is like, yo, could they go to San Fran and give up a first round for Mac Jones? Come on, Jonathan Vilma. I like you, bro. Don't say ridiculous things. My pastor, my pops at Jamel Tony says, my opinion, celebrate the win. The last 2 first-round quarterbacks clearly didn't go well for us, end the season strong. Yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, what did rooting for losses get us back then? And I still contend that you do want to give yourself the best opportunity to get the quarterback. So I get these are conflicting takes because I agree. On one hand, you want to put yourself in best position to get that quarterback without having to mortgage the future, without having to part with picks that could help that quarterback. But I also think it's important for this head coach and his credibility to, in a lost season, come up with some wins. Like if you're getting, you start 0-7, right? You beat Cleveland, you beat Cincy, 2 backup quarterbacks. Boo hoo. Then if you spend the rest of that season losing games to uh, Atlanta, to New Orleans, to Miami, to Jacksonville, to Baltimore, that doesn't look right. I'm souring on your program. So, look, how many wins are enough to satisfy the appetite of one who is looking to see Aaron Glenn's credibility get validated? I don't know. Maybe 3's enough, maybe 4. But I do think that from that standpoint, wins are important. I also don't want to hear, well, what good does it do that you're winning games with Tyrod Taylor, who's not a part of your future? Wouldn't you rather it be with Justin Fields? Justin Fields isn't part of your future anyway. There's nothing Justin Fields can do the rest of the season that is going to, a light bulb goes off. It's like, oh, wait, maybe we have a quarterback. So where the wins come from doesn't matter. I think what's more important is the head coach having victories under his belt as he exits year number 1. It matters, play to win. That's what Herm Edwards say, right? That's what Aaron Glenn tried to say this week. He botched the Herm Edwards quote. You play to win the game. Glenn, clearly the 1A in the relationship, but Muji looks like he knows what he's doing. Have to become a fan. Yeah, Glenn's running the organization. Muji's like his sidekick who's going to be on the phone making calls and actually facilitating all the moves. But they've made some progress. And this is coming from a guy who spent the better part of the first 7 games crushing his head coach, crushing his regime. I've seen some progress. And I have to acknowledge that if I'm going to be someone who prides myself on being candid, I can admit where I'm wrong. And I wasn't wrong to criticize him, but if he turns out to be a head coach that gets this team to winning ways, then I'll come on here and say, listen, my first instinct was he ain't the guy. And also let's acknowledge the media behavior is important. Like he's not the same combative dude who showed up, pumped out chest, acting like he had won something. He's calmed that side of his behavior, and I'm gonna acknowledge that because I think that's important. Jose in Brooklyn, Aaron Glenn showing he can coach. Was at the game. I'm still concerned with the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, Tyrod. Still not impressive, and the offense and defense leave a lot to be desired. But AG and special teams are good. Shout out to Chris Banjo, special teams coach, first year. That's been the strength of the team. The best aspect of this team, you talk about 3 phases of the game. has been special teams. Special teams won that game against Cleveland a couple weeks ago. Now, special teams lost in week 1 against Pittsburgh, but won that game against Cleveland and won the game yesterday. The kickoff return from Isaiah Williams that put them in position for their first touchdown. The return that also put them in position for the next touchdown, and the special teams that forced the turnover that helped the Jets score again. So it's been the best part of the team. I'll give them credit. Here's why I am hesitant to crush the offensive coordinator, Tanner Engstrand. It's hard for me to fully evaluate you when you have a net negative at quarterback. Justin Fields was awful. Tyrod Taylor is better. Like, he gives you an opportunity to see what those weapons look like with Taylor, with Mechie, with Mitchell, with Brees, but he's still not a good quarterback. He's a solid backup, and he's a career backup for a reason. So Steve Wilks, you're right, leaves a lot to be desired. I still have a hard time believing that Aaron Glenn, who appreciates Wilks' skin in the game, former head coach, he's got a lot of experience. I still have a hard time believing he's going to fire him. But as far as Tanner Engstrand is concerned, my biggest criticism of him is, can we get the ball in the hands of Breece Hall more? That's your best weapon. He's one of the best weapons in football. He's explosive. So get him involved, not just in the run game and the passing attack. Far too many occasions, third down situations where just because he's a running back, he's not on the field. I want to see him involved in the passing attack as well. So to defend Engstrand, what he looks like when he actually gets his quarterback will be far more of an indicator of what he projects to be as an OC, as opposed to what we have now, where he just doesn't have anything going uh, under center. Kevin says, Titans or Giants, pick one. All those quarterback needed teams are going to be in an arms race to trade for number 1. Yeah, it's going to be Tennessee. I don't see how the Titans win a game the rest of the year. Maybe they stumble up into one. They got blown out yesterday by Jacksonville. They play the Browns. I think Cleveland's going to win that game. They play the Niners. They'll get smoked. The Chiefs, they'll get smoked. The interesting one is you get Titans Saints in week 17. Saints almost beat the Dolphins yesterday. So maybe New Orleans wins that game. And then they end the season against the Jags. And the Jags, either to get into the playoffs as a wild card or as a division winner, the Jags are going to need that game in week 18. So the Titans, maybe they'll be favored at home against the Saints. That'll probably be a pick 'em. But that's the only game the rest of the way of their last 5 where they're going to either be a favorite or, in the game possibly to win. I just don't see them coming up with too many more wins the rest of the way. So they'll probably be picking number 1, and then they can just hold teams ransom, right? They'll start an arms race, a bidding war for that number 1 overall pick. He was definitely hard on Glenn. I watched his demeanor when they scored, and it feels like they just won the Super Bowl. Players look at that. Players appreciate the type of attitude being generated from the leader of the football team, because your message tends to grow stale when you're preaching all throughout the week that we're having great weeks of practice. This is going well. That's going well. And then you keep coming up empty. You keep finding ways to lose games, which bad teams tend to do. The Falcons, if you watch that game yesterday and you just were able to mute the score bug, you'd be like, the Jets are getting blown out. The Falcons, first downs. They won that battle 25-16. 25-16. Total yardage, outgained the Jets by 120 yards. Yards per play, they won that category. Passing yards, rushing yards. Bijan was incredible. The Jets, 9 penalties to the Falcons, 1 penalty. The Jets dominated in time of possession nearly 33 minutes to 27. So the Falcons at every turn were winning battles except on the scoreboard. And the Jets in that fourth quarter were able to score 13 points, including the game-winning field goal that I thought initially missed from Nick Falk. So for Aaron Glenn to win a football game where his team essentially was dominated in a lot of statistical categories, I think speaks to how I started the show. And that is, you need some credibility, and that credibility only gets validated by you beating bad teams. The Falcons are a bad team, man. So I get, would you rather have the number one overall pick? Sure. The Jets with a loss yesterday would have increased their odds to get the number one pick to 22%. It's now down to 5%. That's a massive swing. I just get tired of rooting for losses. It's also unnatural, man. As Nick Falk is kicking the ball to win the game, are you seriously, as a hardcore Jet fan, saying, I hope he misses it? As Tyrod is driving his team down the field to get into field goal range, and he's scrambling, are you seriously, as a Jet fan, as he's scrambling, saying, oh, I hope he fumbles? It's just hard to do that. How many times do I got to root for this team to lose games, and then they end up picking a quarterback that doesn't pan out? They haven't had a winning season since 2015. Five win, 4 win, 7 win, 2 win, 4 win seasons. We're talking about 5 win seasons the last 3 years. Like, they don't win games. So I guess silly me for wanting to see them finally win the game. Silly me. But yeah, that was important to see. Meanwhile, on the flip side, with the Giants, I feel completely different because the Giants are in a spot where right now they're picking third. Wouldn't you love to, as a team already with a quarterback, be able to start an arms race, dangling that pick? Because I think the Saints will beat the Titans, which means the Giants right now, if they lose the rest of their games, are going to have the second pick in the draft. Wouldn't you love to be in a position to where you either get a trade up from a quarterback needy team, or in theory, the second best player in the draft, because you have your quarterback in place, because you have Neighbors, who's a stud coming back from injury, Scatable, who we didn't think was going to be this good, but he looks to be something, I don't want to say special, but he looks to be productive. Performance-based results. He looks to be like he's a really good running back. Now, that's a tough injury he's coming back from, so we'll see if that alters his trajectory. But they've got some good players. They have their quarterback. They're going to have, if Buffalo doesn't fall apart to the point where Sean McDermott gets canned, they're going to have the most attractive position as far as head coaches are concerned. So if I'm the Giants, yeah, I want to lose out. Because I don't, what do I care about culture building when my head coach is gone anyway? I got my quarterback. I've got some nice pieces on offense. I've got some nice pieces on defense. We're going to have a new head coach, OC, and DC. We're cleaning house. And maybe the added benefit to losing games is, if you're a Giant fan, you're not a big fan of Joe Shane, we get a new general manager. You watch what's happening with Pittsburgh, and Steelers fans have soured on Tomlin. If that dude becomes available, man, look out. I think the Giants, just like that, will be a playoff team. With Mike Tomlin, instant credibility, comes into that locker room, garners immediate respect because he's got a resume. And I get Steelers fans have turned on him, and it's because they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. And, the teams, when it comes to picking quarterbacks, consistently get it wrong with, what was his name? They took a flyer on Trubisky. They had Kenny Pickett. They had Mason Rudolph starting a playoff game. So they've gotten it wrong. And maybe there's the time has come for a new voice needed. But if the Giants land Mike Tomlin, fam, with Dart, all the players I just mentioned, That is going to be fun to watch. And if Tomlin comes here and he's like, "I want a different general manager," are you dismissing Tomlin because you gotta hold on to Joe Shane? Of course not. That'd be ridiculous. So for the Giants, I think it's different. The Giants are are in a space where you almost would rather have them lose out because there's no culture building anyway when you're a triumvirate of general manager, head coach, DC, OC, or just the 4 pack are all going to be different next year. All going to be different next year. Whereas the Jets, we're seeing some improvement with Aaron Glenn, and I think that's important. So you are out of the running for the top pick, but I got to see this coach win some games, man. If I'm going to fully believe and trust in him, I got to see him win some games. Ty D. Butler, subscribe to the YouTube show on YouTube on the channel. Hit me up on Instagram, on Twitter. Hit me up on TikTok as well. Just wanted to come on here and share my thoughts on the Jets winning that game yesterday. A lot of people think it's a bad win. I am not one of those people because this head coach needs some under his belt. He needs some under his belt. And it was Albert Breer. I want to give him credit because he put I was on my man Dexter Henry's New York Post Sports show when I saw this tweet flash across my timeline. It's like, wow, the Jets are getting some national attention, some national coverage. And he put it perfectly. So I want to pull it up just because I want to have proper attribution. And here's the tweet. Here's the tweet. Very well said. Can you guys see that? Let me blow it up a little bit. Jets have now won 3 of their last 5 games after an 0-7 start and hung in there against the Patriots and Ravens in the losses. Remember, that was a nip and tuck game with New England, and the Ravens didn't blow you away. Like the final score ended up being what? What was it? Was that 23-10? Do I have that right? Was that the final score of the Jets Ravens game? Let me see if I have that right. Yeah, 23-10. But that's a 2-score victory for Baltimore. That wasn't exactly indicative of the actual game that was played. Aaron Glenn's program starting to make some headway. And then you'll see people like Sack Exchange. Yeah, against the worst of the worst. Browns horrifically bad and winning special teams touchdowns. Bengals minus Joe Burrow and historically bad defense and 1 on a half back pass. That was Breece Hall to Mason Taylor. Falcons, no Drake London. He says Drake May, but he meant no Drake London and a receiver that fell down on that A.D. Mitchell touchdown pass. It was the cornerback who fell down. Listen, it is what it is at this point, right? It is what it is. They're not impressive wins from the standpoint of you beating teams with their backup quarterbacks. You beating bad teams. But don't you think for the confidence in that room, in that building, you need to see Aaron Glenn come up with some victories? Brian, look, beating Kirk Cousins in a meaningless game in late November won't matter when they're picking 8th behind 4 or 5 teams that need quarterback. I hear you, Brian. I hear you. It's not an ideal situation to be in. I'm sick and tired of being in this same spot where we have to sit here as fans, diehard fans, rooting for a team to lose games. That exercise is so tiring. It's exhausting. I'm done with it. Like, can we get to a point where it's November and our team has a game slated for prime time, whether it's the 4:25 window or it's a Sunday night game or it's a Monday night game where CBS, Fox, they're showing graphics And it's like, here's the playoff picture. And we're either seeing the Jets logo part of that playoff picture because they're in the playoffs or they're in the hunt. That's more fun. So where you could be excited rooting for your team because you want to see them win games. I long for days like that. Hasn't happened since 2015, and we know how disastrous that season was, the way that it ended. I'm still not over it. I guess technically back in 2020, was it 2022, they were 7-4. Then they ended the season with 6 straight losses. So yeah, we did get to a point where they were in the conversation, in the hunt in November. But as you can see, few and far in between. I'm so tired of being here. So there is a part of me that actually understands, and I'm not saying y'all are wrong. The Jet fan who would rather see their team lose, I get it. You're not wrong. You're not crazy. But it's a sickness. It's an illness that we can't seem to have found a cure for. Year after year after year, we are put in a position where we have to root against our team winning games. How crazy is that? Yo, it's wild. It's wild, man. You got Broncos fans last night in a fascinating game. Came down to the wire, overtime. They're hyped. You had Bills and Steelers fans. That's a 425 window. The both fan bases hype rooting for their team. Tonight, Patriot fans with a chance to have a win that gets them closer to the number 1 seed in the AFC. Excited, invigorated fan bases that previously have seen some losing seasons. And yet here we are, once again, rooting for L's. And I'm tired of it, man. I'm so tired of it. Hit us up in the chat. I want to hear from you. By the way, so I stumbled upon something really, really interesting. One of my producers on my radio show on ESPN in New York, Joe Leo, shout out to him. He's like, listen, now that the Jets won this game, it's off the table. But he says, if you had a choice between week 18, the Jets are in Buffalo to take on the Bills. If you had a choice to win that game, to knock Buffalo out of the playoffs, similar to what they did to us in 2015. And yeah, I'm saying us because I'm wearing a Jet hat. If you had a chance to beat Buffalo to knock them out of the playoffs, or to lose and get the number 1 overall pick, which one would you choose? Now, let's add a couple of layers in here to add some context that's much needed. A win takes you from 1 to 6 in the draft. A loss gives you the number 1 overall pick, but Buffalo's in the playoffs, and given what the landscape of the AFC is, they've got a chance to win the damn Super Bowl. If you're a Jet fan, which one would you choose? I said, man, I'm knocking Buffalo out. But then I thought about it and I said, listen, what would be more important to me at that point in the season? Knocking Buffalo out or getting my quarterback number 1? Now, it would help if you actually believed in Mendoza, who might end up being the number 1 pick. I don't know that I fully believe in Fernando Mendoza. I got to see a little bit more. Certainly wasn't great in that game against Purdue on Friday. Got to see a little bit more. But what would you choose if you're a Jet fan? In the comments. Ty D. Butler on social media. You see in the graphic here. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, we're everywhere. It was fun to talk to you guys today. Just wanted to get on here and chop it up about the Jets winning this game. And for a lot of people, this win was actually a loss. I appreciate y'all chiming in, as you like to do, every time we are on here. Maybe I'll come back later on. But It's a win that I wanted just because I need to see the head coach make some headway, as Albert Breer put it. Ty D. Butler, follow me on all the social media platforms. Holla at your boy.